We know the 10 essentials of a contract, right? For a contract to be a valid one, what are the 10 essentials? I need not list it out. You know the 10 essentials. Probably first essential says it will be an agreement that there should be minimum two parties and yes, please. There should be minimum two parties and consensus addendum. Then third point, lawful consideration. Okay. Fourth point, lawful object. Fifth and sixth, legal formalities and legal relationship. Seventh, capacity of the parties. Eighth, consent of the parties. Ninth, certainty and possibility of performing. And tenth one, not explicitly declared to be void. Today's session is on lawful, this is lawful object, right? Lawful object. So today's session is on lawful object. Why I wrote only these 2 points here is, when I say consideration, is nothing but I'm going to talk about the contract. You agree? When I say consideration, I'm talking about promise. You agree? Which is nothing but exchange of promises. There are two parties, A and B. One party, who is the owner of the car, has an intention to sell the car to B for 50,000 rupees. So, what is A's promise? What is A's promise? To give the car. That will be the consideration of B. You agree? See, what is my promise? You're going to get benefits out of that. So, my promise, my liability will be your benefits. That's what a consideration is. So, this person's promise will be the other person's what? Benefits or consideration. Okay. If I give you 50,000 rupees, what you will do? Don't go too personal. What you will do? If I give you 50,000 rupees, okay, currently now, immediately, what you will do? ரொம்ப நாளா மொபைல் வாங்கணும்னு வீட்டுல சொல்லிட்டு இருக்கேன் மேம் வாங்கியே தர மாட்டேங்கிறாங்க ஒரு சூப்பர் மொபைல் வாங்கலாம் எல்ஸ் லேப்டாப் ட்ரை பண்ணுவோம் எல்ஸ் then நீங்க காரே விற்கிறேன்னு சொல்லிட்டீங்களே காரே வாங்கி போடுவோம் see you may have any plans okay you may have any plans but for this 50,000 rupees with whom you are going to enter into the contract with a mobile dealer with a Puvika or something like that or with a person who sells laptop or a person who sells a car. So depending on the subject matter, the contract will be different, right? That subject matter is what you call as the object of the contract. So object is nothing but the subject matter of the contract. Okay, object is nothing but subject matter of contract. Why I need to link this with consideration? Because when we talk about consideration, we say that it is nothing but exchange of promises. One person's promise is nothing but the other person's consideration, which is because of the subject matter, there's a contract, there's a consideration. And you remember that we wrote it in court. No consideration, no contract. So if there is no subject matter or the subject matter is there, but unlawful or illegal, it cannot be a contract. So we cannot break like object is different and consideration is different. Point of view is different, but both are somewhat both are same. Okay. So we'll go for lawful object. So today's heading is on lawful object. Today's heading is on lawful object. Okay. What are the things we are going to deal over here? So we'll go for a basic intro. What I discussed now. Object is not different from consideration. Then we'll say when the object will be unlawful. See, we need to have lawful object means we need to know which should not be done. What type of contract should not be entered into? Okay. See, A and B are two persons. A is a minor, which means B cannot enter into a contract with a minor. This is dealt under capacity of the parties. When we say A and B are both major, but this is doing something unlawful or smuggling or something like that, illegal, we should not enter into a contract because object is unlawful. So object is unlawful means under which cases it happens to be unlawful. So we'll be discussing two cases over here, case 1 and case 2. Under case 2, we have 5 points. Okay. Under the 5th point, so probably let me name it as 1, 2. Under this 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Under the 5 points, we have 17 points. This is the blueprint. This is what we're going to discuss today. So we'll discuss on the basic intro, object when it is unlawful, under 2 cases, and under the second case we have 5 cases. Okay, under the fifth case we have 17 points. Okay, apart from this, we'll discuss one more heading where if it happens, see, we were discussing under a contract entered with a minor, what happens? What's the status? It becomes void ab initio, which is not operated. Likewise, if entered into a contract which is having unlawful object, what it happens? Which means effects of illegality. Okay, effects of illegality. Can I just go through the pages and kindly let me know whether can you able to get this concept over there from single material? Just get the headings first. This is the intro. Okay, first heading. Second heading, when we are going to say the object is lawful. Under second heading, how many cases? Case 1 and case 2. Under the second case, we have 5 subheadings like, okay, we have 5 subheadings. Under the fifth heading, we have 17 points. Okay, this is the 17 points listed from here. 1 to 17 points. Okay. After this, you'll find a heading giving the effects of illegality. In case the object is unlawful, what happens? Third heading, right? So third heading. So what happens if it is unlawful and you have entered into a contract with that person? The consent should be free and genuine. Still you have entered under a coercion or undue influence. What happens? You have entered into a contract with a minor. What happens? Likewise, you have entered where the object is not lawful. What happens? So likewise, you'll listen. Okay. So actually, it's a small topic. Only thing is, so many points will be there, but the concept is very direct concept. ஒன்றும் இல்லை எனக்கு ஒரு நியாயம் உங்களுக்கு ஒரு நியாயம் ஊருக்கு ஒரு நியாயமா அதான் கான்செப்ட் see I may see it's all ethics, right? I may have some other ethical value, you may have some other ethical value, and some other person may be having some other ethical value. But our law and order says when we talk about law, it should be common to all. For each and every person, it should be common. So which means I cannot have a point which seems to be legal for me or lawful for me. I cannot have another point which seems to be lawful for you. Okay. எல்லாருக்கும் காமனா ஒரே மாதிரி இருக்கணும். So we need to have something lawful. That's what we are discussing here. In general, we call this as lawful object is directly linked with opposed public works. Opposed to public works. Okay. So let me take over. This is a famous phrase, lawful consideration with lawful object. Because consideration, object, promise is all same only, viewed in different angle. So when we say lawful consideration, definitely the object should be lawful, then only the consideration will be lawful. Let me go for this example. X, Y, and Z enter into an agreement. Please check. When you say agreement, there should be something for that agreement. Well, I'm spending 50,000 rupees. For what purpose I'm spending? Okay. I'm spending this for buying a laptop. Then buying the laptop is the purpose. Okay. So there is an agreement. What's the agreement behind this? For the division among them of gains acquired by them by fraud. So they are doing some illegal business. Acquire them by fraud means what? Probably some theft or something like that. And they'll be dividing themselves. Who? X, Y, and Z. How many parties can be there in a contract? Minimum 2 parties. Here there are 3 parties. No issues. So obviously it happens to be an unlawful object. So the agreement is void. Intro done. Next. Under which cases we say it's unlawful? If any law is there and it says unlawful. Okay, which means it's forbidden by law. Any law, see, it's not act. You remember we were discussing very beginning of the sessions, not today or some before. We were discussing these 2 terms, legal and lawful. When we say legal, it's to that respective act. When we say lawful, it is for all the acts, which means you have to interpret with all the other acts and you have to tell whether this is lawful or what. Here, our heading is not legal object, instead lawful object. That's why whenever we use object and consideration, we'll talk about lawfulness. Whenever we talk about relationship and formalities, we'll talk about legality of the values. Okay. So here, it is forbidden by law. If any law says it should not be done, then it should not be done. Okay. In case it is permitted, okay, it is of such a nature if permitted, what happens? It might be defeating the provisions of any law. It's not directly done, but it might be defeating any law, or it is fraudulent. So it should not be a fraud. So just now we saw the example. Or because of that action, it is damaging a person or creating some injury to the person or property, or the consideration is immoral. See, you cannot break consideration is different and object is different. Both are same only. So consideration is immoral. And fifth point is opposed to public policy. We'll discuss this opposed to public policy under 17. Okay. Before I continue, I request you to go for the example. Can you go for the example under the second case? Yes, please. So we have some six examples, I think. One, two, three, four, five, six examples. Yes, can you please go through? Make it first example. What's the heading over here? It would defeat the provisions of any law, if in case permitted. So here's the example. As per the Hindu law, adopting a son and giving an annual allowance to the natural parents in consideration of adoption. See, when you say adoption, it should be a free adoption. You should not give anything and adopt. So, as per Hindu law, it's defeated, saying that this agreement is happening to be a void one. Why? Because this is unlawful. Why it is unlawful? Because there is some law behind this, and it says you should not do this. Okay. See, when we say lawful, it can be anything. It can be any law. Probably there is some law where our government, central government or state government has given for some 10 days. It's a law. Whether it's a notification where you should not, this 144 curfew lockdown. So this has been given for respective district. Yes, it's a law you have to follow. Okay. Second one, it is involving some fraudulent activities. Let me go for the example. An agreement for the sale of goods for the purpose of smuggling them out of the country is void, and the price of the goods so sold cannot be recovered. If it is happening in unlawful object, then it's going to be a void ab initio case, which means there is no contract. So, in case breach happens, which means what non-fulfillment of breach happens, then you cannot recover the. Okay. Third, implies injury to whom? To respective person or not the person alone. It can be property of another one also. So here the example is all with respect to intellectual property right. In short, we call it as IPR, intellectual property right. So what do you mean by IPR is like copyright, royalty. These are all IPRs, okay? Patent and all. Here's an agreement to print a book in violation of another's copyright is void because we cannot see what do you mean by copyright is with this function you can utilize it. Without that function, you cannot utilize it. Okay. As the object is to cause injury to the property of another, you call this as infringement of copyrights. Fourth one, consideration is immoral. So, first example, a landlord cannot recover the rent of a house knowingly. Please highlight this word knowingly. If it is unknowingly, means that's different. Knowingly, he lets to prostitute who carries on her vocation there. That's illegal. Okay. Here, the object being immoral, the agreement to pay rent is void. Renting a property is not illegal, but renting for to do this prostitution is illegal. Okay. B. A agrees to let her daughter to hire to be for concubinage. It's void. It's void because it is immoral. Though the letting may not be punishable under the Indian Penal Code. Please highlight. Okay. Please. So I just want to highlight this one. Even though it's not punishable, it's not mentioned as crime as in Indian Penal Code. What is the heading over here? Please focus on the heading. The consideration is immoral. Okay. Then fifth one, I have to go in detail, but still I'll just go discuss this example. Opposed to public policy, an agreement is entered by the proprietors of a newspaper to indemnify the printers. So here is a newspaper. Okay. That newspaper company is entering into a contract with a printer. So what might be the contract? You will give the news, you print it. This is a contract. Okay. In that agreement, there is something where they'll be indemnifying the printers. Okay. What do you mean by indemnifying this? We'll protect you against the loss. See, if there is something bad things you are writing about some person, okay. like defamating or something like that. So you see so many defamation cases are going, not only in direct newspapers, probably in printing, social media also. So if in this newspaper, if something bad or some defamation cases are going, who's responsible? Whose name will be damaged? Along with the printers, newspaper names, and along with the printers, everybody's name will be damaged. Okay. So who will take the responsibility if some loss is faced with the printer? The newspaper will be taking the responsibility. Newspaper means proprietor of the newspaper will be taking the responsibility. That's what indemnifying the printers. Indemnifying means protection against the law, against the loss. Okay. On which case, if there are any claims arising from libels printed in the newspaper, libels means back cuttings printed in the newspaper, then this agreement becomes a void one. This cannot be an agreement. நீங்க எழுதுங்க சார் பாத்துக்கலாம், நீங்க போடுங்க சார், ஏதாவது வந்து நான் பாத்துக்கிறேன். See that you are aware of it, no, you should not do it. And there is an agreement saying that I will protect you in any case, that should not be done. So that's about opposed to public policy. This is not one example of opposed to public policy. We have to discuss all the 17 points. It's a wider heading. See, opposed to public policy means what? We should protect ourselves and also the others' rights should be protected. Shall I take over? So this heading is somewhat a lengthy heading. Please cooperate with me. I'll go 5 in 5. Okay. Agreements opposed to public policy. Probably you may get this as a separate heading also, especially CMA inter students. You may get this as a separate heading. Like you may get the question as, what are the unlawful objects? What are the unlawful objects? The earlier page we were discussing this one, right? This is the answer. Like 2 points and that 5 points. In case your question may be, what are the agreements opposed to public policy? What is the heading? Opposed to public policy. We have to discuss this in the fifth case. Now, what are the agreements that would be opposed to public policy? That is the thing we are going to discuss over. First point, trading with enemy, alien enemy. Second, committing a crime, obviously, whether smuggling or whatever it is. Stifling prosecution, probably I'll go for this example. A agrees to sell certain land to B in consideration of B abstaining from taking criminal proceedings against A. Okay. He says that I will not take any criminal proceedings. And this is relating to selling and buying of the land. Okay. Probably, why he is saying that I will sell the land not for taking the criminal proceeding with respect to some offense has happened. Then you say this is a valid agreement if this offense is compoundable. So this is about the third point. Fourth one, if you interfere with the course of justice. See, there is some judgment given. Okay. With respect to that judgment, if you interfere means what? You are not making the proceedings to move as it is. You are interfering to make the judgments. See, for this example, first one, an agreement by A to reward B, please make a note, who is intended witness, which means what? See, there is a crime taken place, there is a murder taken place. We are all witness over there. Tell me, how many will come as eyewitness to the court? We are all witness over there. You will come, you will come. There you go. Yeah, See, everybody will not be ready to give the witness, and nobody can compel anybody to give the witness. Here is a person who is intending to be a witness, which means what? He is willing to be the witness in the suit against A in consideration of peace, absenting himself from the trial, which means what? I will give you something, don't come to the witness, because if you come, I lose the case. So don't come as the witness. This is what the case here is, which means what? You are interfering with the course of justice. Course of justice is not only the particular judgment alone. What are the things happening before that? See, when you go for the judgment order, it will not be like a one-time thing or one page. It will go for pages and pages. Some judgments are not goes for 50 pages and 200 pages and all. If you go for the judgment, it will relate everything, not only one law. Probably Indian Contract Act will be there, Companies Act will be there, Partnership will be there, all the acts will be there. They'll be referring all the acts. At last, they'll be saying, because of these cases, we are doing this one. If this is given by a judge, it will be called as a judgment order. Probably you might have heard of this word, judgment order, or this word will be used. What is verdict? Okay, these words will be used. If the same thing done by a police officer, okay, you might have heard of this word also. Police officer will be calling this a charge sheet. If a police officer is arresting a certain person, okay, he has to tell under which act, under which section he's been arrested. That's what you call as charge sheet. Okay, probably it may look like a single murder because of something meant in IPC. It might look as a single crime, single murder, but so many might have happened before, right? So everything will be considered. Before the murder has taken place, we have found the victim's phone, okay, and seen the call logs, call list. We find that there is one person spoken with this victim, and he was speaking for 30 minutes. That is a evidence, like. And probably tracing the call, we might have found that he was being coerced. That's a evidence, like. So all these things will be considered. So all these under IPC says it should not be done. It's a crime, and the charge sheet will be mentioning all the section numbers. Not only in IPC, all other laws which are not applicable. Everything will be considered. So if a police or officer does this, it will be called as a charge sheet. And if a judgment order or verdict is given by a judge magistrate, it will be called as a judgment order or verdict. Verdict is what you call as the last thing. Yes, he is imprisoned. He's been levied a penalty. That's what you call as the verdict. Judgment order is the full copy. Okay. So so he's an intended witness, and I am saying that I'll give you some reward, and you should not come for the trial. Actually, are interfering with the course of justice. Course of justice is the proceedings. Okay. Fifth one, restraint of legal proceedings. Yes, obviously. Let me go for a contract. Enter with the employer and employee. What the employer says is, if anything happens wrong, probably in the factory or anything like that, you should not file a case on me. Probably there is a factory worker in a factory. Okay. He says, if any accident happens in the factory, you should not file a case on me. See, that's my right. Right to live is my right. And if anything happens bad or proper measures not taken by the organization, the factory occupier or something, then it is the duty of the organization to take the measures, and it's my right to file a case on. Okay, so in that case, I am entering into an agreement when I'm not getting a job at all. ஒரு நாளைக்கு வந்து 3 வேளை சாப்பிடணும். 2 வேளை சாப்பிட்டுட்டு இருக்கேன். இன்னும் ஒரு மாசத்துல ஒரு வேளை தான் சாப்பிட போறேன். பணமே இல்ல, காசே இல்ல. யாராவது வேலை கொடுத்தா நல்லா இருக்கும்ல. In that situation, I'm entering into a contract with an employer. He says, I'll give you job, I'll give you food. You need not buy food outside. We have a canteen, we give you everything. But anything happens, we should not file a case. Because of the temptation, because I'm not having enough food to live. Because of temptation, what I'm doing here, I'm signing all the agreement. Is this valid? Even though you have signed, it's not valid because object is not law. Okay, that's about this fifth heading. Yes, please, can you please go through? Till here? Arbitration and all will be like exception case. In all the cases, will not come for arbitration. Arbitration means we'll have something outside the court argument. Okay, so this will not be covered. And also, guarantee agreement on bank and financial institutions is not covered. It's mentioned in the law itself. Okay. Yes, please. Let me go for sixth one. Sale of public offices. Public offices means what? The authority. So you're inducing to, or you're inducing the authority to do something or not to do something. That should not be done. Let me go for the first example. It's a very beautiful example. An agreement to pay money to whom? To a public servant. See, public office, working for the government, central or state government, in order to induce him to retire from his office. Why? So that another person may secure the appointment. உங்களுக்கு தான் வயசாச்சுல 2 வருஷத்துல ரிட்டையர் ஆக போறீங்களா விஆர்எஸ் எடுத்து வெளியே வாங்க வேற ஏதாவது ஜாப் கிடைக்கும். You cannot do that. Okay. So an agreement to pay money to a public servant in order to induce him. Why you are doing it? Inducing. Why? So that he can retire. That should not be done. That's what it's called as sale of public office. See, there is something called as VRS scheme, and see, even though an organization is introducing this VRS scheme to the employees, employees, they will give a list who will be eligible to apply for this VRS, and nobody can compel. They have to give the mutual consent. Okay, so that's about this one. And B is also a beautiful one. An agreement to procure a public recognition like Padma Vibhushan for reward. It's the highest reward, right? Honorary awards. So this is also wide. Okay. வாங்கிக்கலாம் award. Right. Okay. Seventh point. Tending. Tending means what? Somewhat like inducing only. Okay. Pushing. To create interest opposed to duty. This is my duty. கொஞ்சம் பார்த்து பண்றேன் பண்ணி விடுங்க. Not working for commission. Okay. See, commission is not a bad word. Brokers working for commission. That's not bad. லஞ்சம்ங்கிற டேர்ம் வந்து கமிஷன் யூஸ் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். That's not wrong actually. லஞ்சம் தான் தப்பு. கமிஷன்ங்கிற டேர்ம் வந்து வேலிட் one. Okay. So an agreement by an agent to receive without his principal consent compensation from another for the performance of his agency. Why, right? See, whom do you call as an agent? Actually, this follows from law of agency. Whom do you call as an agent? There might be a principal who has given authority to this person agent, and this agent does all the work on behalf of whom? The principal, not for himself. So whatever happens, which means liability goes to the principal only. Who will be liable? An agent does some work. Who will be liable? Principal will be liable. So when we fix our agent, this person has to solely work for whom? For the principal only. But what happens here is, here an agreement is to receive without principal's concern. He is working for the, see, I'm going to get some customers for my business. I might be giving 100 phone numbers. Okay. Probably you might be choosing 10. Remaining 90, what I'll do? I'll sell it to somebody. Probably that person will be using some 15 contact numbers. And remaining 75, I may give it for somebody. This can be done, but what? You have to get the principal's consent because your authority is not there. Who's taking the authority? Principal is taking the authority and is giving a certain authority to you, and you have to perform your limits within that. Okay. A, who is a manager of a firm, agrees to pass a contract to X if X pays to A 2 lakh privately. No, privately means that should not be done. Why? Okay. 8th and 9th, restraint of parental rights. See, this is my property. What I can do with my property, I can gift it to anybody. I can lease it. I can give it as a license or whatever the things I can do it, I can do it because it's my property. That's what I call as parental rights, and nobody can restrict me. Okay, so that's about restraint of parental rights. Restricting personal liability. Yes, born in India, I'm Indian citizen. I have the fundamental rights. Okay, so nobody can restrict my personal liability. Okay. 10th point, restraint of marriage. Yes, you can please make a note of this. Other than a minor, if a person being a major agrees for good consideration not to marry, the promise is not binding and considered as void. It's not only for marriage, it's for not marrying also. This is how you have to understand law. This is the beauty of law also. Something is given directly and something is not mentioned as directly, expressively, means it has to be understood. It's mentioned as marriage, not only doing of marriage, also for not doing marriage. Okay, so this is with respect to not getting married, and if any promise is there for not getting married, and if any consideration is received because of this, it becomes a void. Okay, so 10 points. Yes, can you please go through? 11th point, marriage brokerage agreements. Actually, it's void when you go for negotiating marriage for reward. Okay, there are so many matrimonials, right? Yes, you can register yourself in the matrimonials and you can go for matching the horoscope and other features and all. You can get married. That's different. But if you run a business so that you are negotiating the marriage for reward, means that should not be done. Dowry case and all will come under this one. Okay. An agreement to pay money to a person hired to procure your wife. Okay. Our law is not accepting that. நான் பணம் தரேன் ஒரு ஒய்ஃபை வாங்கி கொடுங்க ஒரு பணம் தரேன் ஹஸ்பண்டை வாங்கி கொடுங்கறது நம்ம லால இல்ல. That happens to be a void. Okay. Note exception, marriage bureaus like Bharat Matrimony or something like that only provides information and does not negotiate reward, marriage for reward. So this is not covered under this point. Okay. 12. Interfering with marital duties. Marital duties means as per the authority they are performing, why you are interfering that? Okay, they have the authority and they have to perform. You should not interfere. 13. Defrauding the creditors and revenue authorities. That should not be done. Income tax authorities. Okay, that should not be done. 14. There may be some covenants. Covenants means there's a lot of meaning for covenants. Here we can say some constraints or restrictions. Personal covenants. What do you mean by personal covenants? An organization, Mahindra and Mahindra, it may be entering into a contract with the CEO in a different term. It may be entering into a contract with the managing director in a very different term. Personal covenants means for each and every agreement or each and every condition, for person to person, it will differ. Okay, so employer and employee. There may be thousands of employees working in an organization, in my organization. and may have different covenants. So that's what personal covenants. Covenants is conditions, restraints, whatever it is. Usually, what will be the covenant part? You should not compete. See, I am doing this business. You have this 9 to 5 job. You work in my organization. Okay, what happens after 5? You just take all my clients and do your personal business. You should not do that. You should not compete with me. Okay, not only during the business, after also. And not only that, usually what the employer says, you should not serve my competitor after employment. You are associated with me for 5 years. You learn all the ethics how I run my business, and after 5 years, what you do? You join with my competitor, and the competitor will be very well inviting you to his business because why? You'll be knowing this ethics, the tactics of doing business. So obviously, your success of the business will now be damaged. So 2 points. One is not to compete, and another case is serve a competitor after employment, which means you should not serve to the competitor. Fifth one, sorry, 15th one, restraint of trade. Usually the heading will be restraint of trade, but trade is elaborated in three angles. One is lawful profession, one is trade, and one is business. If you are doing some business and you are selling your business to me, okay, yes, you're completely selling your business to me. What I can do is I can give some restraint saying that you should not use the same name after you leave the business. Okay. In case Arun ice cream is sold, for example, Arun ice cream is sold to whom? To Quality Walls. Quality Walls says Arun ice cream should not use the business name hereafter, the brand name. Okay, probably they may be using as Arun Quality Walls or Quality Arun Walls, whatever it is. See, the spelling for quality starts with K. They may be using the logo somewhat like this A and K put together. Whatever they do, that's different. But what happens is now Quality Wall says to Arun, you should not do this business, you sold it to me. Yes, you should not do the business because it's completely sold. But what will happen here is if this is an individual person or a business, if this happens to be the sole purpose of that person, okay, Sahasri Singar Academy, sole purpose for us. Okay, if you sell this business and if anybody is giving the restraint, you should not give coaching for any CA, CMA or CS hereafter, anywhere in India, always, okay, till your lifetime, which means they are not restricting, they are giving a prohibition. That should not be done. You can restrict it and it should be what? Reasonable. If it is unreasonable, in two angles they discuss. One is in which way you say it's unreasonable. One is with respect to period. How long? For 2 years you should not do the business. Okay, fine. For 5 years you should not do the business. Okay, fine. For 15 years, for 20 years, for 100 years you should not do the business. No, it's not fine. Because unreasonability is different. And also the limits, geographical limits. You should not do anywhere in India. You should not do anywhere in Tamil Nadu. That also matters here. So under these two circumstances, they'll check how far this can be taken as reasonable or not, and accordingly we take. But there are some exceptions where you can sell the goodwill along with the territorial limits and length of time you can mention. If you go for a partnership firm, what the partners will be agreed during the partnership, we should not carry the same business. It's obviously that we are all partners doing the business. After the business, I have my separate clients where I take care of my business in the same manner how it is done in the partnership form. That should not be done. Okay, this is because of the agreement follows from where? Indian Partnership Act. Okay, probably not only that. After cessation, what do you mean by cessation? Dissolving of firm, probably within specified period or within specified limit, we should not do. Yes, that also may be there. Trade combination, probably two or three manufacturers, what they do is the traders or manufacturers, they put an agreement and they want to restrain the business. Probably you might have heard of this concept called as bargaining power of suppliers. Have you heard of this one? Bargaining power of supplier. If there is, see, I'm doing my business. Okay, I need to get my raw materials from a supplier. There are supplier A, supplier B, supplier C, supplier D. For 1 unit purchasing of raw material, this person A is fixing 100 rupees. This person B is fixing 99. This person is fixing 98. This person is fixing 97. What do you do? I directly go for D. You might have seen in most of the cases, everybody will be fixing 100. Okay, because they want to show the uniformity. Now, there may be a case where A, B, C, and D they all merge together, and they will say we are all only one supplier. You have to pay it for 1,000 rupees. See, first case which I said was everybody are fixing different prices. Okay, that is their individuality. That's allowed. Second case, I said everybody they form an association and they say we'll fix it for 100. That's also allowed because one should not get benefited and one should not lose it, right? So that's also allowed. Third case is there is no four suppliers. Instead, what happens? A, B, C, D all say that we are one supplier. What this person will do? No other go. There is only one supplier in the world. Obviously, they have to buy from A, B, C, D only. And how much they are selling for? One unit, 1,000 rupees. So how many each will get? In case equally dividing the profit, they'll be getting 250, 250 and 250 and 250. Obviously, the highest price is 100. Now I'm getting extra 150. I'll be very happy. This should not be allowed because who are getting affected? Consumers. Obviously, the manufacturer will be getting affected because he is getting a costly raw material. And ultimately, this because of this, my cost price will be increased. And obviously, if this person keeps a meager profit also, he'll be selling at a very high cost. The selling price will be high. And ultimately, who is losing it? Consumers. This should not be done. Now here come trade combinations. Why they are doing it? What's the object behind this? To regulate business and not to restrict. Then, and obviously, what happens is at one point of time, you'll be missing the quality also. That also will be a problem. And the point negative stipulations in service agreements like lawful profession and all will be saying like you should work with me only for 5 years. See, that's not for everybody. Should be lawful profession. Okay. Probably I'll go for some example before I continue for 16 and 17 point. See here, second one. We can turn to page number 2.41. Second one. B, who's B here? How is being described? It's very important here. A physician and surgeon, which means what? He's a qualified professional. Okay, lawful profession. Employs A as an assistant for a term of 3 years, and A agrees not to practice as a surgeon and physician during these 3 years. What is the answer? Valid or void? See what they are mentioning here is he's saying assistant. He's not saying as training or what do you call this nurse-like persons. They are not mentioning that name. They are mentioning as assistant, which means ஒரு டாக்டருக்கு ஒரு அசிஸ்டன்ட் இருக்கணும்னா அந்த அசிஸ்டன்ட் டாக்டர் ஆவார். And what's the agreement about? Not to practice as a surgeon and physician, which means clearly the description is there. Both the persons are physicians and surgeons. What the point here we discussed earlier is you can restrict, but the restriction should not be on a lawful profession. If you are a trainee, that is, you are not a qualified member, you are not a qualified professional, then I can restrict you. But you are now an assistant, which means what? You are still an assistant, but you are a surgeon and physician. So the restriction becomes void. Okay. During these 3 years, obviously, you cannot restrict a professional here. Okay. This is one example. Probably I can go for one another. Go for seventh one. It's more or less the same one. Go for seventh one. I'm not going to discuss. You can just have a look. Is that okay? Let me take over. Now come for the 16th point. Maintenance and property, yes, unlawful. But when you say it's unlawful, you cannot say it's completely unlawful. It will be void if it becomes unreasonable and malicious motive is there. Malicious motive means illegal, like gambling. So what do you mean by maintenance is? It's like an agreement where you enter into a contract to maintain sleep which he has no interest. See, I'm not involved. See, no person has a right to sue on another person. We know this line, right? Stranger to a party cannot sue. So that's about this concept is. Champerty, it's also like an agreement where a person agrees to assist another in litigation in exchange of a promise to hand over a portion of the proceeds of the action. நான் உங்களுக்கு சப்போர்ட் பண்றேன். இந்த கேஸ் முடிஞ்சா ஒரு 10 லட்சம் ரூபாய் வருமா? அதுல எனக்கு ஒரு 5 லட்சம் ரூபாய் தரணும். ஏன்னா நான் ஹெல்ப் பண்றேன்னா எனக்கு 1 லட்சம் ரூபாய் கொடுங்க. See, if you are a lawyer, professional, then you charge something. Sometimes what the professionals do regarding this law cases and all, what they do is, I will fight for the case, and for the legal fees, what they'll do is they'll fix like 10% I'll get it. That is lawful, okay. But what happens is, I agree that I'll assist you only when I get something out of the process. That should not be done. Okay. See, legal fees is different. Okay, legal fees is different and this agreement is different. And 17 one agreements tending to create monopolies. See the one which I was discussing here, this case. When A, B, C, D put together called as one organization, which means they are creating monopoly. They are creating monopoly means what and all they say, we have to agree. As per our law, only one monopoly, government is taking the complete control. That's only the monopoly is there. They have to check whether any monopoly is created or not. It will be taken care by the competition department, competition authorities. Okay, so we need not worry. So these are the 17 points says that opposed to public policy. You cannot directly say it's opposed to public policy. There are some restrictions and some reasonability and other things are there. Okay. So before going for effects of illegality, I would like to go for one or two problems. Already I discussed one or two. See this one, eighth one. It's a beautiful one. F sells, let me discuss directly. You just joined with me. F sells the goodwill of his shop to G for how much? 6 lakh. And promises not to carry on such business forever and anywhere in India. Comment on the validity is unreasonable and so is wide. Okay. Why it's unreasonable? For anywhere and everywhere in India, he will not do the business. Because he has sold the goodwill. We have sold the complete business to him, even the goodwill. So he'll not do the business anywhere in India means it's not reasonable. So it becomes unreasonable, hence void. Okay. First one, yes, can you please go through? The question seems to be somewhat lengthier. Make yourself out as easy case only. Let me join. A license to cut grass. Sorry, a license to cut grass is given to X by whom? The Forest Department under the Forest Act. Okay, under the Forest Act. One of the terms of the license is that the licensee should not assign his interest under the license without permission of the forest officer, and the licensee is prescribed for a breach under this condition. Please try to remember there is a Forest Act, and as per the Forest Act, there is a department working for the administrative purpose and all. Who is taking the administrative authority? The forest officer. Okay. And the license is given to whom? X. In this agreement, there involves a terms. What is that called? You should not assign this interest. Okay. What do you mean by assigning the interest? Is some rights are given to me. Interest means it's a wider term and it covers rights also. Some rights are given to me. License is a right given to me. Okay. And that right should not be transferred to other person. See, they are saying it's a forest department and it's a forest act. It will be like a very big area. We're going in hectares. Is it possible only for me to do the job for cutting the grass? Why they cut the grass is that unwanted weeds. Okay, unwanted weeds will be cut down. Is it possible for me to do it alone? Okay, so probably I may be the main person, and under me there will be some contractors working. Please try to understand this. Under me, some contractors will be working. So I'll be taking the responsibility, and probably contractor A, contractor B, contractor C will be doing the job. But what the condition says here is we are giving the license to you, and you should not assign to A, B, C, or somebody. Some third party should not get involved. But if you still understand the case more better, without the permission of the forest officer, which means what, you have to get the permission of the forest officer, then you can proceed. And licensee is prescribed a breach of this condition. If you are not following this, which means if you are not getting the permission of the forest officer, then what happens? It's a breach of condition, which means liability will come or the license will be cancelled. But the observance of the condition is not obligatory under the Forest Act, which means what? It's not there anywhere in the Forest Act, which means what? There's nothing called as illegal or unlawful here. If it says clearly that you should get the permission and you're not getting the permission and you're proceeding, it becomes illegal. There's no mention about this condition. What it happens here? It's not illegal, you can do it. If A in breach of the condition agrees to assign his interest, that agreement will be valid only, which means what? This person is assigning an interest to A, B, or C. This happens to be a valid one only because it's not said anywhere, it's restricted as per the Act. You can do it and this contract will be valid. Okay, it's somewhat a different case, you have to understand. So what happens is here they are giving a reason. It's not prohibited by law. The condition against assignment has been imposed only for administrative purpose. If something wrong happens, okay, there will be some sandalwood or other expensive trees will be there, logs will be there, and if anybody are going for some smuggling, sandana kattal veerappa. Narakadanu enna issue. If there are going some wrong activities are happening, not only cutting the grass, any wrong activities may happen. So many wrong activities are taking place. Especially when you go inside the forest, it will be like hectares and hectares of area. You cannot control or you cannot trace also what is happening. So it becomes a headache for the forest officer because he is a responsible person. It becomes a headache for the forest officer. What he can do? He cannot administrate. So he himself is adding this condition, saying what? You should get my permission and do it. Okay, so this is also a beautiful case. So almost done. Last one small content. In case you know this is unlawful and you have entered into the contract, what happens? Effects of illegality. The main contract is void. Along with that, collateral transactions also becomes illegal. See, I'm entering into a smuggling activity and I'm having an agent who is called a broker, and this person will be getting some commission out of this. There are two smugglers, A and B. You know, the big smugglers are not, they'll not meet directly. Everything will be happening through an intermediate. This person is a broker and he gets some percentage commission if he goes for this smuggling activities and smuggling transactions. So A will give certain percent commission, B will get certain commission, which is the main transaction here. Because of the smuggling activity taking place between A and B, this person will get the commission. Else he will not get the commission. Am I right? So here, what is the main transaction? Smuggling is the main transaction, and because of the smuggling, the broker is getting the percentage commission. So this becomes a collateral transaction. Because the main itself is unlawful, the collateral becomes unlawful. Here will not say unlawful. I don't know how far you noted this one. You will not say unlawful here. Main transaction will say unlawful. But this unlawfulness is related to broker, means this brokerage is happening to this case only, right? In that way, if it is smuggling, okay, which act is followed? Under the smuggling, this is wrong. So it follows illegal. If murder is happening, that's a different act. If defamation is happening, that's a different act. Okay, so we'll say it is illegal. We'll not say it's unlawful. You can please make a note of it. It's illegal, not unlawful. Okay, because main transaction only you can say unlawful. Okay. So what is the breach? Which means what is the remedy? You cannot recover the money. You cannot recover the property also transferred. Gone. Okay. I'll go for first case alone. Actually, there are 5 cases. These cases are often helpful for our exam point of view. Let me go for the first case. Remaining things you can make it. Here the case is between a company and a person, node on left, who filed a case on this person, okay? On this company. This company is about manufacturer of guns and ammunition and all. So just a small gist. He's a business manufacturer, manufacturing what? Guns and ammunition. When he sells that, he sells with a condition not to manufacture anywhere in the world for 25 years. We should not do the same manufacturing where? Anywhere in the world for 25 years. Is it reasonable? Usually what we say, anywhere, everywhere, lifelong, 5 years, 10 years, we say it's unreasonable. But what is the gist of the case? It's about guns or ammunition. How many will be doing this business all over the world, right? If there is a brand name, only I can do it. So it's giving protection to the company, and they say the restriction is valid. This is what is interpretation. இல்ல லால சொல்லியிருக்காங்க எனிவேர் பண்ணக்கூடாது. இல்ல லால சொல்லியிருக்காங்க எப்பவுமே பண்ணக்கூடாது. அப்படி இல்ல. என்ன கேஸ் இது? கன்ஸ் ஆர் அம்யூனிஷன். அது எல்லாருமே பண்ணதுக்கு ரைட்ஸ் இல்லையே. Okay. See, you cannot print Indian currency at your home. இல்ல which means what? அங்க ரெஸ்ட்ரிக்ஷன் கொடுத்தது கரெக்ட் தானே. எனிவேர் யூ cannot print and everywhere you should not printங்கிறது ரெஸ்ட்ரிக்ஷன் கரெக்ட் தானே. So it's related to guns and ammunition everywhere and anywhere in the world for 25 years in the valid. Again, you may ask me why I'm 25 years? Because the guns model will be outdated. Okay. So that's a beautiful case. You can please make a note of it. So that's about